Hey guys, Kevin here with Gravity Nerds, and today's video is titled, Your Home Woody Needs Volume. Volumes? Volumes. Your home woody needs volumes. I've got a couple reasons why I think that's true. Here we go. The first reason that your home woody needs volume, variation. I think monotony is the #1 enemy with anybody's home wall. The setting can get kind of the same. You're probably mostly the person who's doing it, so you need some spice, you need some variation, something different. Volumes offer that in a couple key ways. For me, the biggest way that volumes offer variation is by changing the angle with which you can mount holds to your wall. My home wall is 30 degrees overhanging. Yours is probably something kind of like that. If you're lucky enough to have a little more space, maybe you have multiple angles, and that's awesome. Volumes allow you to adjust the climbing angle of any of those surfaces. So for example, if this thing was mounted on my 30-degree wall at home, this face right here would be about vertical, and then this face right here would be a lot steeper than 30 degrees. So changing the surface that you're mounting your holds on allows you to vary the difficulty of any given hold. If there's a hold that's way too hard to hold on to at 30 degrees, well, mounting it here is going to make it a lot easier. And then the converse is also true. Converse? Inverse? I don't know. Anyway, it's also true that if you put it on the bottom, that's going to be a lot harder. Have you ever thought to yourself, bruh, I should probably start crimping nastier crimps? Well, if you want to make the bridge into crimping nastier crimps, ooh, look at this thing. Dual-Tex foothold, can you crimp it? Yeah, I think you probably can, especially if this volume is on your home wall kind of like that, and there you go, you're psyched. Or turn this thing over, and now your crimp, well, yeah, that's not going to work. But anyway, yeah, you can take even footholds, put them on top of your volume, and boom, all of a sudden those are some little crimps that you can get nasty on. So yeah, cool. You can change the difficulty of a hold by changing the orientation with which it's mounted. If you put a hold on the side over here, all of a sudden that side pull can change the nature of that sloper and make it into a hold that you can now use. Also, it changes the way you're going to grab those holds. So for me, if it's a flat plane on my home woody, I'm kind of grabbing everything like this. It gets maybe a little samey. You can get an undercling in there, but I don't know, sometimes it feels a little contrived. Volumes can really help with that. So now you've got some side pull action going on, some underclings, all that good stuff. So big introduction of variability with a volume. The next thing that volumes really add to your home woody is they are increasing the surface area. By putting bumps on the surface of your climbing wall, you're literally making it bigger. You're increasing the surface area. If you count the bolt holes in the volume versus the bolt holes that you're covering with the volume, you get more by adding your volume. More bolt holes equals more holds on your wall. And hey, that's a good thing. Everyone wants more holds on their climbing wall. But you're making the path longer from the bottom to the top or from the side to side, and I actually noticed this more in traversing. My home woody is 8 feet wide, so I can cross that in a traverse in maybe 2 or 3 moves. If you add a volume right to the middle of it, all of a sudden you can work around it in 3 to 4 moves. So it doesn't sound like a huge difference, but it definitely climbs differently. You'll notice it. Also, from the bottom to the top, the linear climbing feet on my home woody is maybe 11 feet. My garage is like 9 feet tall, and because it's leaning over, you know, I get about 11 feet of linear distance from the bottom to the top. Add a couple volumes in there, and all of a sudden you've got a few more moves that you can make getting from the bottom to the top without feeling bunchy or contrived. So volumes literally make your climbing wall bigger. And in a mathematical sense, it's not a huge difference, but I think it does make a big difference in the way it feels when you climb. So you're adding surface area. Another bit of variety that you're adding to your climbing wall is visual variety. And this isn't as much of a hard benefit as the other categories, but I think it's an aesthetic, and I think it's important. If your climbing area is visually attractive, if it's comfortable, you'll probably use it more. And other people who are maybe a teeny bit less psyched than you will also want to use it a little bit more. So I think that is just a good thing. You can also create different aesthetics with these big shapes and add that as sort of the artistic part of your wall, making it look cool. So I think that's a good benefit. There are some potential cons with adding volumes. The first one, cost. aren't these things expensive? If you're gonna add 5 or 6 volumes and they're, $200 a piece, that's a lot of money. Well, that's where Gravity Nerds can help. Our volume kits make all this stuff a lot more affordable. We're offering them at roughly half of what you're seeing the major commercial volume manufacturers. Now, that half, you're gonna pay for it with a little bit of sweat equity. Nothing's free in this world, right? But as far as the bottom line impact to your bank account, they're about half as much, or to look at it another way, you could get twice as many volumes for your dollar. So I think that's kind of compelling. Another thing that you might worry about with volumes, particularly large volumes, is don't they just get in the way when you're climbing? Don't you bump your elbows on them? Don't you whack your knuckles on them? Aren't they in the way for your knees or your core? And I think those are all really valid concerns. On a wall that's vertical or slabby, I think that is clearly the case. So if you've ever climbed on a wall that's vertical and it's got a big volume in the middle of it, yeah, for sure, that thing gets in the way. And not only that, you could hit it on your way down. If you fall off, bang your knee on this thing, that's gonna hurt. Those concerns for me largely go away once the wall gets a little bit steeper. Once it gets a little steeper, a couple things happen. Number one, your body is coming off the wall a little bit when it's more overhanging. If you have been putting a lot of the time in for your core and you're super tight to that wall, awesome. You're a better climber than I am, so that's great. But for most of us, when the wall gets a little steeper, your body's coming out a little bit more. So these volumes, they really just don't get in the way as much as you might think. I was worried it might be the case, so I made a really big volume. It stuck out 16 inches from the wall, and we'll cut to some footage right now of me climbing on my home Woody with that volume. And I was thinking, man, is that going to be in the way of my knees or anything else? And gosh, I think the answer is just no. It really doesn't. And in fact, I think it only provides extra variety. Another one that I didn't mention in the variety category, if you stand on the tip of the volume with your feet, the angle with which your body is oriented to the wall, it provides a more restful position. So when I'm doing circuits, if I want to rest a little bit but stay on the wall, I can use those feet that are a little further out. And it's like when you're climbing and you find a foot behind you and the stance becomes more restful because you can use that foot to push in. Yeah, anyway, it provides some nice variation in the footholds, not only just the handholds. So anyway, my take on that, I don't think it's a factor. The volumes just don't get in the way for my body. The one thing that is a little bit of a factor with getting in the way is blocking holds. So when we look at a lower profile volume, like this guy right here, if you put a hold right next to it, it's not really getting in the way. It's not blocking your path to grab that hold. If you have a volume with steeper angles and sharper corners, like this one on the wall behind me, if you put a hold right here, yeah, this volume is going to get in the way of that hold. There's no doubt about that. If this is a foothold, you really won't be able to use it. And if you're putting handholds up here above it, yeah, equally, they're going to be difficult to get to. So that factor can be mitigated with a little bit of careful and intentional setting. But that is something you will have to think about when you're placing your volumes and choosing your volumes for your home wall. Again, more of a factor on a vertical wall, less of a factor on a steeper wall. So your mileage may vary there. In summary, your home Woody needs volumes. Check out gravitynerds.com for a couple really affordable options in this category. I hope you pick up some sweet volumes and make your home wall that much cooler. Check out gravitynerds.com and pick up one of our volume kits. You'll be psyched, I promise.